Why did you click on this thumbnail while you did not click on some of the other thumbnails that were coming as suggestions? What made you click on this thumbnail is something that happened in your brain and then you took the action. Imagine that pattern of thinking or that pattern of behavior is understood in a structured way and then used to help you take right decisions every time. Then how it will sound? Welcome to Unfold Data Science, guys. Today I am joined with a very interesting guest and very senior industry leader, Biju Dominic, whose work has been mostly around behavioral science or how humans behave. Biju is also Chief Evangelist at Fractal Analytics and Advisory Board Member for various institutions. This conversation is going to be very informative for you guys because we are going to talk AI, data and human behavior all together. If you are working in any kind of business or any kind of job where you deal with humans, which most of us do, then don't miss this discussion. You are going to learn a lot. Hi everybody. Today I have a very special guest with me, Biju Dominic, and I am honored to host Biju at Unfold Data Science. Biju, thanks a lot for taking time out. And first of all, we will like to know more about you and then we will go on to discussions.
Yeah, been working for a fairly long time. The first 17 years of my career, I was in the world of advertising, and where you're trying to understand and influence human behavior. And you worked across trying to build several brands while trying to understand and influence human behavior. But while being in advertising, I realized that I'm not doing a good job. So I walked out of the advertising industry and I started a firm called Final Mile Consulting. That was the first firm in the world to take learnings from neuroscience, behavioral economics, and design to understand and influence human behavior. And Final Mile, possibly in the last 19 years, have worked across a spectrum of human behavior problems in the world. You mention some of the most significant human behavior problems in the world, spread of HIV, road accidents, girl trafficking, and we worked on all of them. And Final Mile merged with Fractal Analytics, which is a world leader in data analytics and AI, in 2018. And since 2018, I've been trying to combine the powers of neuroscience and the powers of AI, and trying to see how we can, again, better understand human behavior and influence human behavior. And so you can almost see that I'm a much late entrant into the world of data analytics and AI. But I always look at AI from the perspective of the human. And I also head the Niti Aayog's expert panel on human-centered AI because we strongly believe, India, which is the most populous country in the world, AI cannot be something that replaces humans. AI something should actually be enhancing the lives of each and every citizen, not just of India, across the global south and across the world. So that's my perspective to AI, and also all looking at it from the perspective of human behavior. So that's what my long career of 35 years have been.
Yeah, that's really inspiring, Biju. So your journey has been from mostly around understanding human behavior, and then now we are talking a lot about AI, data, etc.
Exactly.
So the first thing I would like to understand from your vast experience is, I was reading one of your article and something on LinkedIn that you wrote, where you said that in the absence of AI or in the absence of data, the way advertisements were performing, it is worse than that now. So, for example, the click through rate we are achieving is well below 1% now, well below 0.5% also. We have lot of data from every nook and corner. We have lot of technology from all the way around and powerful models. So why it is happening that we are not able to proportionally get the business benefits out of that, and what stops AI and data being that successful? Is there some factor of human behavior here?
Of course, I think where AI and data analytics is doing an extremely good job is where, for example, human behavior per se doesn't have much of a role to play. For example, supply chain management, or production planning, or all of them. I think, or analyzing the data, just the sales data. All of them, data analytics and AI does an extremely good job, perfect job. So it's wonderful. Where we get wrong is where we are trying to use data and AI to really understand the nuances of human behavior. And we should also realize that I don't think there's anyone who can really stand up and say, "Oh, I've got a good grip of human behavior." For that matter, I often say that, for example, the organized religion have been trying to tell the whole world for the last 3,000, 4,000 years, some commandments: don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. Now, 3,000 years, 4,000 years, they've been trying to influence human behavior with all their powers. Weekly meetings, the fear of hell, the promise or reward of a heaven, all that happened. But not a single human behavior problem is on a decline, which means human behavior management is not an issue where, forget about data analytics, before that, psychology theories, because before that, whatever you can talk about, have not managed to get a good grip of things. So, and now when it comes to marketing, and that's exactly what the question that you asked, the failure rate is very, very high. It was close to 90% of the new products across the world have always failed. And excuse me. And when we started, say, digital advertising, people said, "Oh, now we know the consumer. We have all the data about the consumer." 1994, 95 is where sort of first digital advertising, and the click-through rate was fairly good. It was a novelty. But look at it. In 2024, 25, the click-through rate has come down to 0.35, which is more than 100 times reduction in our capability. Now, our immediate this would be to say, no, 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 the number of brands, the number of clutter of digital advertising, number of brands there is gone up, and so the clutter is much, much higher. It's true. Let's completely agree with it. But remember, that's the same time when we really got data analytics, some of the most sophisticated strategies were adopted. We had hyper-personalization strategies really being developed. We had search engine optimization. So the way to improve the digital advertising, there has been a tremendous improvement. So despite all those efforts, I think the click-through rate is going down. And if I take not just the click through rate and assume people clicked on it, I then look at the cart abandonment rate. I mean, it got added to the cart, but how many of those really got bought by people? 70% of the products that are added to the cart is actually getting abandoned. Now look at the rate. So, the overall ability of marketing, for example, to influence human behavior is very, very, very poor. And it's not just about marketing. For example, HR, change management programs. Again, the lot of data about client, employee satisfaction surveys and a whole lot of data that we have. But with all those data, we have created a lot of change management programs. The failure rate is close to 75 to 90%. Now, let's take a management activity where, let's call it, the most sophisticated management intelligence, corporate intelligence goes in is an M&As. Now, what is the success rate of M&As? Less than 10% of the M&As actually add positive shareholder values. Now, integrating supply chains, integrating the financial systems, integrating their technological systems, I'm sure we do a fairly very good job. Where do we fail? Where do that 90% of the failure rate of M&S come from? It comes from our inability to get this set of employees of this organization, the other organization, now both to sit down together and work together. We haven't figured out a way to manage there. And it's not just in corporate. Look at policy making, where even in life and death situations like the COVID vaccine came in. We made a vaccine which normally takes 8 to 9 years. We made a vaccine in about 3 to 4 months. A vaccine was ready. Uh, you know, the best of the virologists, all of them worked together to achieve that. Then obviously they said it has to be taken at much cooler temperatures. The best cooling companies in the world came together and they've developed, apparatus to carry that at very extremely cold temperatures. They said, no, it has to be taken to every village in the world. Now, the supply chain companies came together and said, yeah, we get it. We'll find a way to make sure that the vaccines are available in every healthcare center across the world. But what we didn't know was how do we get the normal person to go and say, hey, it's a life and death situation. Please get yourself vaccinated twice. We don't know how to influence human behavior. So you can have all the data, we can have all the technology, but finally managing human behavior is not as easy as what we think it to be.
And some examples we can see in our daily lives. For example, if you go to Bangalore and if you say to people that bikers, even very very educated people like me and you, it's very common to see they are driving on the footpaths, and they have their own reasons for that. They'll say that, what should I do? Nobody's there on the footpath, I'll just drive. So very
Now,
different.
road accidents,
Yeah.
I think there are enough signages throughout all our roads by saying drive slowly, accidents can happen, be careful. It's just doesn't work. And one of the most famous of the projects that we worked on is people getting hit by a train in Mumbai, and about 16 people die in Mumbai every day as they get hit by a train. Who should be taught that that train that is coming towards you is dangerous? So do not cross the railway tracks when the train is coming in. But due to some reason, somewhere we are not able to really, I mean, it took us some time, took 6 months, and we figured out. But normal such scenario for a long, long time, people didn't know why that is happening and how that could actually then be prevented.
I was also reading about some of the work at HIV, like you mentioned, HIV stopping or spreading, controlling that, or like you said, girl child trafficking. So, in all these areas, I feel there is behavioral pattern that need to be understood that your team has done, right?
Yeah. HIV, we did a lot of work in several African countries, mostly, where we were trying to understand what are the factors that are causing the spread of HIV. Mostly it's the teenage sexual behaviors. There's a lot of awareness campaigns that are going on about HIV, the dangers of it, the dangers of having multiple sexual partners, the need for using safe contraceptives. But just somehow that awareness was not leading into the right behaviors. And I think that is when we realized that humans, their ability to foresee a problem, which could actually happen much, much later, is very poor. Most of us live for the pleasures of today. And that's the way human beings have been for more than 680 million years. And or in girl trafficking. We studied both the supply side, where we went to the villages in India where this is predominant, to understand what are the factors that are sort of pushing these little girls, their families pushing these girls into flesh trade. And on the demand side, we studied, the why do men go for paid sex, And again, it was very deep understanding that it provides you as to how the traffickers use a very deep understanding of, they have a very deep understanding of human behavior to exploit the situations in their favor. And I think the last 19 years, I think we've managed to bring in a new way of looking at human behavior. And in the last 8 years in Fractal, we have actually combined the powers of let's call it the qualitative aspect of neuroscience with the quantitative aspect of data and AI and technology and AI. So I have no doubt as we go forward, the way to deal with human behavior is not just data and AI, but data, AI, neuroscience. The both qualitative and quantitative have to come together. And once you do that, I think last several years of this work has shown that we can actually make a difference to and and solve, at least mitigate some of the significant human behavior problems in the world.
Yeah, and while reading about your work at Fractal, I saw about macro stimuli. It was really interesting to see, like, within the fraction of second, also last few bits are important for a decision. That is my understanding right about macro stimuli concept?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think microstimuli is a new concept in the world of persuasion that we have actually developed. That sort of fundamentally questions some of our traditional beliefs about human behavior, and one of them about mostly about human decision making. And one of those beliefs was that assume if I'm if I, for me to get someone to buy a toothpaste, what I used to normally do was I have a persuasion stimuli, which is a 30-second commercial, 30-second long story that I have to tell people before they I get them to buy a toothpaste. And that too, obviously they have to see those advertisements few more times. But when we looked closely at human decision making, and mostly there, we took a lot of learnings from sports, and mostly the work of Peter McLeod in Oxford, who studied people who played cricket. And what we found is that when a bowler, bowls about 140, 150 kilometers, and today, right now, I'm sure the whole of India is watching India playing West Indies. The ball from the bowler's hand reaches the batsman in about 0.45 seconds. So the decision making time the batsman has is only point less than half a second. Now, Peter McLeod has also figured out what happens in that 0.45 seconds in the batsman's brain. So the batsman has to judge, where is the ball going to be pitched? Is it going to be an incoming ball? Is it going to be an outgoing ball? That decision is taken in about 0.22 seconds. Then he lifts his bat and then rotates his bat to meet the ball right there. The rotation of the bat is about zero point 0.2 seconds. And the shot, where should I play that shot and what shot should I play, is taken in about 0.01, 0.02 seconds. Now, the interesting point is the same is the time a person gets in tennis to decide whether that serve is going to be on my forehand or on my backhand. The same is the time a person gets in baseball. The same is a soccer goalkeeper gets when a penalty is taken at about 0.45 seconds. Now, this was a very significant perspective that told us that human beings have a brilliant ability to take decisions in zero point zero 0.01, zero point zero 0.02 seconds. Okay, that's one thought. The other is there's another very interesting study that is done by Gary Klein, and he studied firefighters. And firefighting, a fire that happens is one of the most uncertain of a situation because there are too many variables involved which you are completely uncertain because you're standing outside the building looking at it. You don't even know what is inside it. You don't even know what caused the fire. You don't even know where is the direction of the wind. But I think what Gary Klein figured out was that 78% of the decisions a firefighter takes is taken in less than 60 seconds. And the most other interesting thing is neuroscientists have figured out that we take about 35,000 decisions in a day, which means 17, 18 hours of a wake up time. If you look at it, we are actually taking decisions in about one decision every 2 seconds and less. Now, all these shows one thing, that this belief that decision making, is an elaborate process that goes on for minutes and hours is wrong. We are taking a whole host of decisions in a matter of milliseconds. Now, this was a huge, big realization. And combine that, we had another study, and that's a very interesting study. And that was about, what is our relationship with the smartphones? Now, one of the things we figured out is, of course, everyone knows that we're spending about close to 4 hours and more on and mostly I'm talking about the digital natives, the 20 to 30-year-olds. But we asked one more question, and that question is, how many times a person touches a smartphone screen? And what we found is that we touch a smartphone screen on an average 4,513 times. Now, what does that mean? Every time I touch a smartphone screen, the context, the editorial context is changing. That is almost equal to me pressing the channel button on a television remote. The context is changing. And the context duration on television was about 5 to 21 minutes, where 90 percentile was about 5 minutes and 95 percentile 21 minutes. The context duration on television was 5 to 21 minutes. But when we looked at the context duration of the smartphone, we realized it's only 5 to 10 seconds. Now, which means when the context duration is 5 to 21 minutes, you can have a multiple 30-second commercials. It fits in perfectly. But in a context duration is 5 to 10 seconds, you can't even run a 1 second commercial. And that is where we said that we need to create a persuasion stimuli in milliseconds. So our existing understanding of the decision making process, more so the decision making process in the smartphones, told us that our traditional 30-second commercial based approach is not going to work. We have to change. And that is why we introduced this concept called the micro-stimuli, a stimuli that works in milliseconds. Now, you will immediately, I'm sure the viewers would ask a question saying that, hey, what can you say in milliseconds? Is it, is
Yeah.
really possible? And I think that is where we went to the film posters. I'm sure you still remember the film poster of, say, the movie Jaws. It's one image. There is an image of the shark with very sharp teeth. Purposely, they actually sharks don't have that sharp, but they created its sharpness. And there is on top of the water, there is a woman swimming. Now, that one image, it's actually a microstimuli. In that one image, gives you the whole feel of what happens for the 2 hours and 4 minutes of that film. It's a compression of this. Or just look at the poster of Sholay. The iconic film. It's a 3 hour, 24-minute film. But if you look at that poster, who are the main characters, and the characters have been taken at that appropriate time. So Hema Malini is taken at that most iconic, important, her dance, where obviously everyone knows that's a pivotal scene of the movie, the way the fonts have been created. So I think the film poster makers for years have told us a long story that goes on for hours. I can bring it into milliseconds. But what does it do? What is actually is doing is those images just creates memory connections, activates it across the brain. And that's exactly what a microstimuli does. Microstimuli has those appropriate stimuli, but once you see it, your brain's activation of all those memories, and then it's a flood of memories. And that's all that is required. And in milliseconds, you can actually influence human behavior. And we have tried it across, as I said, managing the trespassing problem of in Mumbai, road accidents, all of them. I think what we have used is not the elaborate, long drawn, long messages. It's all micro stimuli that we have used. And recently, we have combined it with the powers of AI, and we managed to deliver that on smartphones. For example, to influence the behavior of one of the Middle East countries and get them to take more steps every day. So now, using smartphone, which is an always with you, always on medium, you can use micro stimuli to create any action that is required. For example, I have to make you get up in the morning and go for a walk. I have to get you to drink more water every day. I have to remind you to take your medication every day, because medical non-adherence is one of the biggest problems in the world. So all this is now possible where with smartphones and microstimuli incorporated into the smartphone, and AI, of course, brings in the hyper-personalization of a different level altogether. It is the future of persuasion. There's no doubt about it.
Sometimes while scrolling Instagram, if let's say there is a athlete who is wearing one kind of blue shoes, that brings that thing that I should build muscles like them and I should wear this shoe.
That's true. That is true.
So we were talking about AI, and I would like to understand a bit about, most of our audience are from AI data science background. Whatever is happening since last 2022 and ChatGPT era, and every time somebody like Anthropic CEO comes and says that, hey, software developers, your job is gone. And some, few days back I saw that IBM shared, 10, 12%, 15% it went down because they told that they can read COBOL codes now. So there is a lot of fear among engineers at, let's say, my experience level or juniors, where the industry is heading. And if in my team I say to a person that learn AI, sometimes what happens is they feel they are losing their traditional skills. But on the other hand, if they don't learn that, that is also not a right thing to do. So how do you see this entire ecosystem evolving?
One, being part of Fractal, there's no doubt about it that I've been watching it very, very closely, and I've been reading a lot about it. AI is a wonderful technology, and that is going to change the way the world has looked at things. There's no doubt about it. It's an extremely wonderful technology. There is also obviously fears that people have when you such a innovation or such a brilliant new thing comes in. Anything new comes in, we are always scared about it, and there's a lot of fears about job losses and other things, and some of them are true also, because a lot of the repetitive jobs where things were, where we were just repeating the same jobs, those will be taken and by the AI, because AI will be able to do a far superior job of that. So there's no doubt about it. That has happened for every innovation that has come before us too. Look at the industrial revolution, and I think there were a lot of things that were being done by hand. The machines came in, and machines could do it. Even just lifting things, the cranes came in, and you could lift much more heavier things much more efficiently. Happened to, a lot of other jobs that were done by hand manually, that were all taken by the machines, and those were only focusing and continuing to say, I will not learn anything new. Obviously they would have lost their jobs. There's no doubt about it. So evolving for the future and evolving with the times is really, really required. But I'm a huge optimist about these innovations. Let me take three or four of the past innovations. Fire came in. It's possibly as significant as AI today was fire when it really came in. I just spoke about the Industrial Revolution, where the machines came in. Then obviously electricity came in. Now let's take all these. Now what did it really do? You can Now what did the fire do was, fire suddenly allowed the food to be We didn't know cooking, but then suddenly started the food, you knew how to cook that. Now, what did it do? Until then, a lot of focus of our human brain was to focus on digestion because we were eating raw food. But the moment fire came in and we had cooked food, the amount of focus that the brain had to give to digestion dramatically came down. So it freed up the human brain. When machines came in and electricity came in, what was done by manually, now you could actually, be done obviously with the machines far more efficiently. And 1950s, 1960s, the information economy happened. So this whole software, looking at and anything to do with information is the post-industrial era where humans said, I'm not doing anything with my too much with my hands, but I'm going to use my brain. So if you look at all the past significant innovations, what it has done is actually freed up our, took away the routine, the so-called, focus on digestion and focus on manuals, labor, all of it, and just opened up and gave much more time for the brain. And this is exactly what is going to happen with AI. The routine, repetitive jobs, which are so boring. All of us know how boring is one of those repetitive jobs. Even if it is coding, it is the same old repetitive job. How many of us really loved it? That really said, let me come back and do this job every day. We didn't love it because for us, it gave us job security. There's no doubt about it. But it's not one of those jobs that we looked forward to. So, what it's going to do is all the routine jobs will be taken up by AI, but it again frees up our human brain. Now, I have no doubt about it. With the time that we are going to get, and with the support of AI, the creative ability of the human brain is going to speed up much, much more. Because one thing AI can't do, AI at least is repetition of the past. It just repeats what is in the past. But creativity is not a repetition of the past. Creativity is always, it's breakaway from the past. And I'm still not sure that AI can make images today, no doubt about it. AI can look at all the Picasso work and create another Picasso work. But that's not creativity. Creativity is when you have insights and you have things which are very different. I often ask the question, can the theory of evolution be discovered by AI? Can penicillin be discovered by AI? Now, I'll be very, very surprised, and I'd love to be proven wrong about it, because I believe that the creative ability, which is and what is creativity? Creativity is two things that existed in the past but never came together. And the first innovation, for example, is the axe, because there was a stone tool that remained the same for 55, almost, I don't know, almost 1 million years. I think we had the same stone tool that was used. There was no slight improvements happened out there. But one day, someone took that stone tool, put it onto a stick, and tied it, and an axe came in. That's the first innovation. So I have no doubt about it. I think AI will continue to improve and further the stone tools and improve it further. But bringing it and tying it onto something at a relevant thing and creating a completely new thing will be the job of the human brain. And that significant creative leap is what humans are going to do. And AI will really help you, because while preparing for it, collecting the past information, reading more about it, all that AI, the LLMs will do a great job of doing it. But the leaps of creativity is going to come in from the human brain.
Do you think that a 10 people team will reduce to 5 to 6 people team?
Depends on what. If it is repetitive jobs, forget about five, it will come down to zero. But just look at it. See, when I'm of people of my age, we have seen different, like internet came in, you know, and I was in the world of design and advertising before that. And I'm talking about, let me take even 80s when I finished my engineering. Did any of my engineering batchmates decided to join a software company? And I'm talking about
No.
87 when I passed out. No, it was Steel Authority of India, BHEL, ONGC. These are all the companies where my colleagues joined. We didn't know a job called software. Or let's take 2000, when I was in the world of advertising and design. Did the designers talk about something called UI, UX designs? No one. UI, UX, these are all jobs that came in just in the last 15, 20 years. So there are a lot of job opportunities that are waiting for us for of the AI world. Just that we are not able to visualize it right now. As much as we couldn't visualize, engineers couldn't visualize that their jobs will be softwares in the 80s. Then just about 10 years later, that was waiting to happen. Or the designers didn't in the 90s didn't say that my job will be to design UI UX experiences. So there are a lot of jobs that are waiting to happen just on the other side of AI. Let me give you an example. AI, everyone says misinformation. It can create fakes, it can create reality. I agree.
Yeah.
Now, someone has to stop it. Now, is it stopping at the source? No, it is not. Because I know Jeffrey Hinton has said that no, initially it should be like, we have managed to stop currencies being, counterfeit currencies. Because that's true. Because counterfeit currencies, to a large extent, the countries have managed to stop it. Now, that is, you could stop it because to create counterfeit currencies, you need very sophisticated technology. We need sophisticated machines, and one, two individuals can't do it. So it's easy for the governmental system also to track down such people and make sure such things don't happen. But misinformation, you and I sitting with the laptop or a smartphone can create a misinformation. So that counter currency, fake currency approach is not going to work in misinformation. But misinformation has to be dealt with. Just about 2 months back, NATO released a report, and they said the future of warfare is not what is actually happening in right now with the drones. It is actually cognitive warfare. That much before the drones take up and go up on the skies, there would be much before that. There would be cognitive warfare. You will actually reduce the trust of the citizens that have in the leaders, and other things will be done, which is misinformation. Now, how will you deal with it? How will I deal with misinformation that's coming in? I can clearly tell you that is a job for the future. So, just that, you know, when we speak about AI, which I said we're talking about it, and we're talking about human, we're assuming the humans remain where it is. As much as
Yeah.
AI will evolve, the humans also will evolve. They will evolve with the
Yes.
times. And just that we are not able to foresee that. And those of us who are able to foresee how things are going to evolve and change with it are the people who are going to really be the real winners of the future. So the companies like the Infosys and the TCS and the Wipros, they foresaw what a lot of engineering companies didn't see in the 80s. And they were the winners of the 90s and 2000s. Now, when it comes to this world of AI, obviously it will be, I assume, companies like Fractal who saw the emergence of this AI wave and are willing to know. Because when, for example, when Fractal Analytics started 26 years back, data analytics and data was not even no one even bothered about. But the co-founders of Fractal foresaw that data will play a very significant role. And now with AI coming in, the fuel of data is really helping these companies. So you need to think about the future and be prepared for it. You can't cut paste the past onto the future and expect to survive. No, that's not going to happen. So we have to move with the times and be ready to change, to adapt to the new things that are going to happen in the future. I'm very optimistic about what the future will be.
I can correlate with what you are saying, because in even when I started like 14 years back my career, that time also, if you talk of data unit in an organization, it was not a main driving unit. It was a very small unit. Slowly AI and data lot of data started getting generated, and that area started getting matured, and we have reached a time where a company stands and it's AI first, nothing else, just AI.
Yeah.
They have a AI product that works. And like you gave the example of dot com bubble, and before that, who could have thought in 1995 that one can build a $1 billion business just out of internet? So internet was not there, so nobody thought. Then internet came, and then things came, and then products of SAP or products of Microsoft Windows, everything used that, and we see what is the situation now.
Exactly, exactly. And I can tell you that, because if you had told me in the 80s when we were studying that software updation, will happen through, I don't know, those days you used to put a floppy in, change this one and put a new software. But no, automatically from somewhere from the air, you'll be able to download the new software and update it. You think any of us would have believed it? No way, no way. And I think that sort of real changes will happen. AI, the changes will be much faster and much more wider and this one than what internet did to us. So each will bring in, to me, positive changes, and the world will become obviously a much better place. And that's why I'm very optimistic about what AI will do to us. If internet could make so much of changes to us and make our lives so much better, AI can only make our lives even better than what it is right now.
Yeah, so many people are kind of building AI, or at least using AI, giving context to their agents and things like that. So I would like to understand a bit on, if I have a pre-existing patterns in my mind, so some kind of bias, can I, as a builder of AI, introduce that bias unknowingly in the system, and then it does more damage? Is it possible?
I just wrote an article, I mean, my LinkedIn just about 2, 3 days back, and that was about, and I think the headline said, "What happens when agentic world becomes more human?" And I mean, that's exactly the direction that you're asking me. Now, you're talking about unknowingly the biases creep in. Just recently, my team participated in a competition by New Lips, and I think the whole competition was trying to use agents to play the mafia game. And we know the mafia game, where there is a mafia, there's a villager, there is a doctor, and what is it? The mafia agent will have to make sure that no one else recognizes that he is the mafia. So he has to cheat everyone. Now, all the others have to figure out who's the mafia from the various factors around there. And this has to be paid 50 times around. Now, this to me is the future of agentic work. So far, right now, everyone is looking agent as a very efficient, the classical economics, the Homo economist, which is rational, picks up all the relevant information and then chooses and then creates the most optimum decision. And agents, of course, it's very, very important. It does it, and it will do that particular job. So, for example, it searches, assume I had to book an airline ticket, it searches all the things, looks at it, looks at all my patterns, and then books, and or at least tells me that this is the best airline tickets for me. Agent can do a brilliant job of it. But somewhere, I realized that not me, there are now 3 or 4 other travel companies also have their agents. Now, it's a competition. So, what do I have to do? Now, I have to give a feeling now and assume the consumers also have their agents. Now, I have to somehow, how do I stand and make sure that the consumers' agents, chooses me? Then I have to create a little by saying only 2 seats left, and I have to create a scarcity. Now, is that true? Not true? I don't know, but I'm faking it because I have to create a scarcity. So hopefully, the consumer's agent actually notices that and oh, let me then go and book that. Now, the consumer's agents have to figure out who's actually, whether it's really 2 seats left or actually is actually creating a fake. So my assumption is that with competition coming in the agentic world, each of those agents will not unknowingly, knowingly will create in a typical marketing situation where I will try to create those sort of, you know, ways to influence human behavior, and that will automatically create. I wouldn't call it biases, but let's call it the human nature will come into agents. Now, you and I assume our agents are actually doing his job. They have now to become smart enough to know who's actually cheating or who's actually got those and who's actually telling the truth. So we'll now go back to the same time when you and I go into the marketplace. I know whether that sari sales guy is an honest guy or that vegetable vendor is an honest guy or not. We have our ways of figuring that out. And your wife or my wife figures that out. Okay, is that vegetable really fresh or not fresh? The same will happen to agents. And the vegetable vendors' agents will also try to give a feeling to everyone that it is fresh. So I have a feeling that this assumption that agents are going to be those very linear thinking, you know, homo economics, the rationality personified, is not going to be the reality. The reality will be much more complex, like the mafia game, where there will be a lot of cheatings, and then the agents on the other side will have to be smart enough to figure out who's telling the truth and who's actually cheating. So it's going to be an interesting world, even in the world of agents.
More and more agents come close to human, more and more human things get into the agent basically. So if the agent
Exactly.
is not
Exactly.
not able to sell my products or bring in more sign-ins to my website, I'll simply try hook and crook to make that happen, because that's a business survival, again, human mindset.
Because we know quarterly results. Last time I got grew by 25%, and now I say I grew by 25%. No, agents will be told, no, 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 you have to find ways to grow by at least 35% next quarter. So what will the agents do? So agents have a
And the
tough
bad
job to
thing
do,
is
man.
AI can do it really bad way.
But I'm optimistic. As much as there will be wrong things, then there will be set of AI will come on the other side to detect, and how to manage it. Let's take it. Anything in the world has been used for bad things, including the purest things like the belief in God has been used for
Yeah,
bad
yeah.
things. And what will always happen is you will have counters will also come in to find that out. The same will happen. AI will be used by bad people for bad things, and there will always be a business opportunity to create AI that can detect those and actually stem them or nip those things in the bud itself. That it's a good business opportunity. The police forces has always existed, and there will be police forces and law enforcement agencies will always be there, even in the world of AI. There's no doubt about it.
One more thing I wanted to, because I was reading on your LinkedIn and I saw one terminology called behavioral nudging. So let's say if I go ahead and scroll my LinkedIn, and let's say I interact with certain kinds of posts, or I interact with certain people, when this nudging comes into picture, then will it change my behavior at that level?
It is based on what I would call one of the most hidden biological truths about human behavior. So, the point that you asked about nudging is based on one of the most hidden biological truths about human behavior. And what is that? It actually says of the 11 million bits of processing that we have, only 77 of them, read my words, only 77 of them work at a conscious level, which means 99.999% of human brain's processes happen below the threshold of consciousness. So this consciousness that we thought, and free will we thought, that is guiding our decision making, is completely wrong. For those listeners who are interested in, please read a new book that's called Determined by this neuroscience person called, the book is here. So this book,
Okay.
determined by Robert Sapolsky of Stanford University, actually reinforces or explains much more of what I said. So this particular fact actually reminds you that that a lot of our decisions are all taken at a non-conscious level. So micro-stimuli, or the behavioral nudging that I'm speaking about, is nothing but trying to use, and by the way, this non-conscious is extremely efficient, and extremely efficient because brain as a machine uses up only about 20 watts. So all the activities that we do, thinking, speaking, walking, digestion, breathing, all of it is done at just 20 watts. By the way, when people said, oh, AI, DeepMind's AlphaGo defeated Lee Sedol, 4-1 in that very famous match, very few people realized that AlphaGo was burning up about 200,000 watts to play just AlphaGo, the Go game. And Lee Sedol was burning up only 20 watts. So that shows the energy efficiency of the human brain. It also shows how low the carbon footprint of the human brain is. But coming back to it, that we are able to do all this at 20 watts because almost all the activities that we have happens at a non-conscious level. And behavioral nudging and micro-stimuli are all based on using the brilliant powers of the non-conscious to actually activate new behaviors in people. And it's a new way of persuasion. And I have no doubt that will be the way we would actually, the world of persuasion will move in future.
Both of these will basically together it need to come, the macro stimuli
Exactly.
concept and nudging concept.
Yeah, it is microstimuli is the way behavioral, it's the input, or it's the what is used to create behavioral nudging. So behavioral nudging is the process, and the
Yeah,
microstimuli is what we have as an instrument to create behavioral nudging.
the kind of framework.
Yes.
And with all these, there is one last thing I would want to touch upon from your experience. We have touched upon this, but still, humans and machines both together. On one hand, we are seeing machines getting smarter, of course, but as we discussed, the creativity and building new things or connecting A to B, this is something that is historically has been done by human, and it looks like in the future, no near future, AI can still think about putting A and B together and generating AB, that kind of thing. But from the big players in the gen AI space, or anybody who are releasing every quarter a new model, lot of big claims that this will happen that way. For example, this COBOL example. So if LLM can go and read the COBOL code, then why people are so much scared? If Anthropic is saying that COBOL code I can read and understand, that is fine. Reading and understanding is not something that will uh, you know that will sink IBM as a company. So why people are so scared of these? And second, how it is going to go in the future?
Now, I think you touched upon a very important point, and which is okay, you can create, and there's no doubt about it, that some brilliant creation is happening in the world of AI, which Anthropic is talking about, is creation. But one thing I want to tell the technology world is creation is not equal to adoption. I'm repeating, creation is not equal to adoption. You can create the most sophisticated things, and I can talk about life and death situation. Antibiotics would have been one of the greatest innovations that we have created. Even today, tuberculosis, we still not managed to find a way to get people to take that free tuberculosis medication daily for 6 months. We haven't figured out how to do it. So, medical non adherence, and each of you, you can look at your behavior when you went to meet the doctor. The doctor prescribed the medication for your fever and all those throat problems for the last five. He said, take this medication for 5 days. How many of you took it for all the 5 days? So what does it happen? Second or third day, when I think your fever and throat pain went away, you stopped taking it. So what did it do? The virus was not completely moved, or the bacteria was not removed. The guy is still strong enough. And so today, all the the benefits of antibiotics is getting now getting affected because we've not been taking antibiotics in the right way. The adoption of it's not been perfect. Or let's take one of the latest, just before AI came in, one of the biggest technological innovations that we talked about was the smartwatch. All of us have this smartwatch on our hand. And but 500 million and more pieces of this have been sold in the last few years. But how many extra steps has this actually led to the world taking? Now, what has happened? 25 onwards, I think the last quarter on, the sales are declining. So you can, with this coming in, we thought, oh, every data, how many steps I'm taking, what is my heartbeat, everything was spoken about. But the adoption didn't happen. So I want to remind all the AI, the people who are producing AI, please, an adoption is going to be finally done by humans. And humans are not, as I told you right in the beginning, their behavior and managing the behavior is not easy thing. So you can have the greatest AI product, but that would be adopted and used on a sustained basis will be a huge challenge. And so if AI and those who are developing AI will have to really make sure your product becomes a success, you have to really work with the end users and have to really find out what are the barriers they have to adoption. And you have to really work and incorporate that in the design of your product itself so that the adoption of it is actually much more smoother. So we can't take adoption and sustained usage of the best AI product for granted. Antibiotics to the our smartwatches is all reminding us what is about to happen to the AI world too. You might have the greatest AI product, but the usage of it by the end user will not be appropriate unless you really focus on adoption. And even at the AI summit, I think Nandan Nilekani, I think he mentioned that in that interview, he said diffusion. How do you achieve the diffusion of AI is a very important thing. And that is where human behavior experts will have to come in, along with the technologists to actually make sure that the brilliant technology that we create is also adopted and used on a sustained basis. That combination of technology and human behavior, it is what is really going to take AI to the next levels.
Very true. So, until or unless somebody on the ground or somebody working hands on is not convinced, you can't tell them to use Copilot to write the code. They'll say, I don't like the
Ex-
code. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. And I have seen it because I don't want to mention that company. It's one of the multinational companies, and my team was working on something, and suddenly the person said, the people in that client's team is saying that please bring in these improvements, and so they made all that improvement and gave it back the product again. Then they looked at it and said, okay, it's fine, but this is not working now. Please make it. So this team leader came to me and said, Biju, the adoption, these people are just coming back with more and more changes. So I said, it's not because you can make even more changes and they will continue to ask you even more changes. But he's scared that this product is actually going to affect his work or the way it is. So unless you assuage his feelings, he's going to come back with very rational, please make these changes, improvements, then I will use it. But so adoption is not going to be easy, but we have to manage it because, as I said, AI is brilliant. AI can do a lot of wonderful things, and it's important it is used by more people. But we also have to acknowledge that there is a human on the other side who's going to use it, who's going to buy it. Now, unless his feelings are assuaged and he is told that, you know, his role is not going to get impacted much. He will find ways and very rational reasons he'll give you as to why this new product is not really appropriate for our company.
Yeah, and people can generate evidences very nicely to support those.
Exactly, exactly.
It's very easy for somebody on the ground, hands on, to
Yeah,
generate the against all the
yeah,
evidences, and they'll prove it. It's not worth it.
yeah. Oh, yeah. They'll always happen. That's for sure.
I see a lot of books on the background, Biju. So, any book recommendation for viewers watching this?
A lot of books that I would recommend, since you asked about machines and humans. This is a work by the MIT, and this book is called How Humans Judge Machines. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
is different because we are all used to dealing with human to human interaction, and but this book actually says human to machine interaction is going to be very, very different. So that is one book I would strongly recommend. Another book that I would actually speak about would be, I think it was here. It's the evolution of human intelligence, and it's a new book, which is actually very interesting. It's here. One. Sorry, a brief history of intelligence. And this is
Mm-hmm.
where I would actually say that those of you who are engineers, technologists, this book actually says that you just need to know how the brain evolved. And the more you understand the evolution of the brain, is where you will actually understand and create better technologies. And Demis Hassabis actually said that. He says the more we understand the inscrutable algorithms between our ears, better will be the technology we create. And so, if you look at Anthropic head, Demis Hassabis, and all these people, I mean, Jeffrey Hinton, all this new wave of AI people, they all have one thing common. They were all neuroscientists. So they studied the most efficient machine in the world, which is the human brain, which has been
Human
picking
brain.
up all the data and managing things for the last 680 million years. And so, if you can understand that algorithm, most of the problems that you're trying to solve are all problems with the human brain solved at some point of time or have been solving and managing it. So all these people, Jeffrey Hinton, Demis Hassabis, Anthropic Head, all of them, they're all basically saying the more we understand how the human brain functions, better will be the AI technology we create. So this book, A Brief History of Intelligence, would be one book that would really help you to get into that particular world.
Thank you so much, Biju, for your time, and it was very, very fresh and very, very new information for the community. And I would love to talk again with you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.